Hello, everyone, and welcome to the first episode of the Devil's Own podcast. I am joined today by Josh. Hi, Josh. How are you?
Hello, mate. Yeah, I'm all good. You?
Yes, good, thank you. And our chief reporter, Asa. How are you, Asa?
I'm very good, thank you. How are yourself?
Yeah, good. Yeah, all good. It always feels better when we've won, doesn't it? So welcome. For everyone that doesn't know, the Devil's Own was formed to be I don't like the term all-inclusive, but a supporters club for everyone, right? Not necessarily worried about ownership models, recruitment policies, any of that. We want it to be around supporting the team on the pitch, regardless of what's going on off it. There'll be times we perhaps cross over that line discussing some transfers, but for the main, this is a place where we just want everyone to get behind the team and try and create some sort of positivity. I think this year in particular, there's been a lot of negativity on the pitch, and some of that has come the way of the stands and vice versa. So first off, some people may have seen you running around with some very little microphones on Saturday, Asa, and Grant chasing you around with a camera to talk to fans. How was that?
Yeah, it went. It was a bit of a slow start, but we got going, and sometimes you have to be a bit patient. But we got a lot of good interviews in. It was a nice little start, and hopefully we can build on that and keep growing the pre-match interviews. Hopefully, look to do some post-match at some point. So yeah, if you see us around the stadium, don't be shy. Come and say hello and give us a little interview. There'll be a few quick fire questions, nothing much. But yeah,
You
it's been
don't
really
bite.
good so far.
And even got Reggie on it, which was equally as impressive. I know
Yeah,
Reggie
Reggie
doesn't
had
speak.
his second appearance of the season, I believe. So yeah, he made an appearance on our interviews, which was
He
good as
did.
well.
He can't speak. Obviously, he's like the Stig in Top Gear. So he had his minder with him. Josh, you appeared on it. So what was it like on the other side of the camera with Asa asking the questions? Is he any good?
Yeah. It was good, mate. Bit different because I feel like the famous content creators, and you always think, why not Crawley? So it's definitely a good thing, I think. But yeah, it was good. For Asa was
Yeah.
very, very
Well,
well be
that's what we're
asking the questions. So yeah.
that's what we're hoping is to just bring a bit of fun, a bit of positivity, and a bit of lightheartedness. The questions this week were pretty hard hitting because of what had gone on in the week.
Yeah.
But hopefully, as things improve, we can chuck in a bit of fun along the way as well. Such as, will anyone ever score through the county mall scoreboard thing at halftime ever again? Because
Yeah,
there seemed to be a little flurry. They've changed the format about 8 times to, I don't know if they're
yeah.
trying to make it easier or harder.
Well, it used
I
to be
think I've
top
only ever seen
corner.
one person get into it.
Yeah,
When it was top corner, that was
well, no point.
ridiculous. When you're getting all these people out of hospitality in their loafers to try and top bin a ball. But yeah, we shall see. Okay, so elephant in the room, Scott Lindsay. I'll go first. Personally, really disappointed. Had a lot of time, Scott. Always stopped to talk to me. Had great conversations with him. I was disappointed when he went the first time. I was disappointed now. But professionally and as a supporter, it's been pretty hard watching this year, I would say. And I don't know too many managers that would be able to keep their job going winless in 12. And I think we just reached a point where we can't go, oh, there's 2 teams worse than us. We had to do something sort of proactive. So Disappointed. I understand the change. Certainly from my perspective, I wish Scott all the best. I don't for 1 minute believe that he didn't try his absolute hardest for the club. It just didn't work this time round. Asa, thoughts?
Um,
I know you
like
wrote about it extensively, but
I did do a piece on his sacking. I think likewise, I'm disappointed because of I thought the immediate reaction is mixed emotions because of what he did for us and stuff. But when you take a step back and you think you have to look at the bigger picture, and the bigger picture was we haven't been good enough this season, and just because what you've done in the past doesn't guarantee you a job, no matter what your position is in the table. I think I think it was a sort of a surprise in the fact that we've given him this long in the season, and we decided to sack him with only 7 games left, which I thought was interesting, especially regarding their relationship and the way the owner spoke about how he thought he was the man to guide us back to League One. So surprised in that respect, but I think the
I've never
change.
known such a divided fan base on it. Like, normally everyone's in favour of sacking someone, or it's a bit of a shock and everyone's kind of really disappointed. Like, I think because of the history with Scott, exactly what you're saying, there's a real kind of personal connection for a lot of people, and we're really disappointed to see him go. And I think when he went the first time, there was maybe always a feeling that like he might come back one. I don't think he'd ever come back a third time.
No, I think
So it does. It maybe feels more final this time, and it's just left people feeling a little bit more sort of on the fence, I suppose. Like you say, there's a lot of strangeness about it. Josh, how do you feel about it?
As I said, I didn't actually see it till the Monday morning, so I was pretty shocked as well because I think overall, no matter what you think of him, he's going to always be a club legend. You know what I mean? Like the only manager to first trip to Wembley ever. So you know what I mean. Overall, he's a legend, but like we always have to look in the future. You can't keep going back to the past. And like I think like the owner gave him enough time. You know what I mean. He got backed fully in January, 13 signings, and what was it, 2 wins? He got still. And he tried to bring the band back together, and I just didn't think it worked. But overall, I think it was the right decision. I feel like we're always so used to Scott, you know what I mean, in the stands, like when we win with a fist bump. I like Colin. I think I just felt on Saturday it just felt weird without him. You know what I mean? Yeah. Overall, I think it
It's
is
a
the
bit
right
like your
decision.
granddad suddenly not being there or your uncle not being there, isn't
Oh
it?
yeah, 100%. Because he's
It
such a nice bloke, Scott. You know what I mean? He'd
yeah.
give time for anybody, and yeah, I had a good relationship with his daughters on my page as well, and he never gave up. He was never going to resign. You know what I mean? He put so much
No,
effort. So
and I think you hit the nail on the head. Look, he was backed. We got the band back together. Mixed results in that. I think it's fair to say. I've
but
been
yeah,
quite vocal that the one I was least sure of was Kellen Gordon coming back at the time. I've completely changed my tune. I've now got him printed on the back of this shirt. He's the
he's
one
probably
that
been our
runs
best
up
one.
and down. Listen. So you touched on it there, Josh. I gave Asa first dibs on Scott. So go on, Colin. Thoughts
Um,
pre-Saturday and thoughts post-Saturday.
well, I think pre-Saturday, I think everybody wasn't happy with it. You know what I mean? Like the position we in, I thought we needed the EFL experience. You know what I mean? You couldn't take a gamble, and especially with the rumours he's he was a friend with Erdem as well. I just thought it wasn't really a good idea. And overall, it actually got me blocked on my page. I completely regret that now, saying all that stuff. But post Saturday, it really does show, doesn't it? Because I think criticism can go to the players, because I just feel like I know Scott had to have the blame as well, but I feel like the players had a part of losing him the job as well. You know what I mean? It wasn't fully on him, and it just shows you that they've gone out under Colin and they've won. You know what I mean? Yeah, and I just like he did the togetherness at the end in the circle. I just you can believe a bit now. You know what I mean? We've got a chance, so I
Yeah,
feel like definitely got to get behind him, and I like him now. So take back everything I
yeah.
said.
I mean, look, I'm maybe older and wiser than you two, right? And I'm old enough to remember when Coca-Cola gave Brighton and Hove Albion 100 grand to buy Colin Kazim Richards. Um, he's been around the block. I'm with you. I was on the Simply Reds podcast. My tip for the job at the time was Darren Ferguson. I thought maybe he would be the sort of person that
I
maybe could come in and dig us out.
I, I thought Matt Sadler, to be honest, the former Walsall
Yeah,
manager.
that was another
Yeah.
name going round, and um, it it was definitely a bit left field. And look, I think historically we've been, as fans, we've not had the best of experiences with managers in their first managerial role. If you think of kind of Kevin Betsy, Matthew Everington was there for 5 minutes. It doesn't always work, and like you say, it felt like a really big gamble that we were sort of staking football league survival on it. Asa will be able to talk about this far more than I can because he's educated in this area, but I don't think he's fantastic in front of the media at the moment.
Yeah, I think he sort of he gives a bit of more of a long-winded answer than maybe is necessary, or potentially goes on a bit of a tangent. But I think he appears very down to earth. You know, I think overall he does speak well. I've seen a lot of comments saying he speaks well. I think he's very open, actually. He sort of lets quite a bit out about sort of what goes in the dressing room and etc. But I think pre Gillingham, it was a bit of a shock. I think for many, I think it wasn't one where we were. It gave us lots of confidence as fans, but I think I'm going with quite a lot of optimism anyway. So I thought, it's a lot of people said on the interviews it's sort of an unknown quantity. We don't know much about him, so he hasn't got any managerial luggage. He hasn't been. He's not like some of the other managers people have looked to bring in who have been sacked this season for a reason. So I sort of went with an open mind and ready to see some change, because I think we've seen a lot of. I think Lindsay was quite stubborn this season with formations and style of play, so I think it was nice to see a change anyway. And post Gillingham, you know, he came out with a lot of energy. I like that passion, because Scott showed a lot of passion, and I like that. And I think Colin's done that as well. I think Josh got a good bit of footage on that celebration for that first goal.
Yeah.
So I think let's not get too carried away as well, because it is only a game. I don't necessarily think we played that well, but we'll get onto that. But yeah,
We definitely will. I think, look, the togetherness thing, I think is great, and I think maybe that comes from the fact that he's maybe not long retired, and you can almost go, right, what would I want as a player? Sort of how would I want that to be? So, completely agree. I was curious to see what he would do at the start of the game. Obviously, we're all used to Scott coming out a couple of minutes before the players, and doing his applauding. The fact that he sort of spent even longer doing that, great. So look, the old saying goes, "The king is dead, long live the king." Right? Yeah, Scott's a legend. We'll build him a statue one day, or paint his face on the stadium or something. That day can never be taken away. And I'm sure when the dust settles, he'll always be welcome back. But we move into the reign of Colin, and let's talk Gillingham. So you just said it, Asa. wasn't 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 a great performance, but I felt like if we'd had a rocky 15 minutes, if we'd maybe gone a goal down, that atmosphere could have turned quite quickly. So we controlled the game quite well in that sense. I felt like it was. I don't want to say more positive. It was more progressive. It felt like the ball went forward a lot more from where I was sat. And I noticed at least 3 occasions where the ball came back into Charlie Barker, the square ball was onto his centre-back partner, and he went forwards. And to me, that was a real change of dynamic. I felt Orsi looked the most lively I've seen him since he came back. It was unfortunate that he went off injured. That did look like a bad injury. So hopefully, it's not too bad and we see him back on the pitch soon. But how did you guys feel about it? I mean, I didn't think it was, a 9 out of 10 performance, but we dug in and we got the result. And 2 weeks ago, we'd probably lose that game 1-0 or 2-0.
Yeah. I think in terms of the performance, as we said, I don't think it was, blown away by it. But I don't think you'd expect that with a new manager coming in straight away and a change of shape. You don't expect it to just click like that. But I do agree with you. I think there was a lot more forward passing rather than backwards and sideways. I think we looked a bit more direct and quicker with our play. I think it was interesting to see. I think we went much more direct as well. I think from Chapman, I think there's a lot of balls straight through the middle of the pitch, which I think were held up well by Orsi and Adiemo, and I like that dynamic up front. I think that worked really well actually. In terms of the back four, Adiemo isn't my preference at a right back based on his defensive liabilities.
But where was Super Kellen?
I believe he was injured in training, which was a shame. But I'm sure we'll get an update on that soon. But yeah, I think to me it looked like it was a back four out of possession, and we moved sort of. Addy pushed up very much higher up the pitch, and we went sort of to a back three at times in possession, just add numbers to the attack. But that was from my perspective, and it's sort of like a back three in possession at times. But I think when McCurdy came on, because obviously went off quite early in the second half. I think again that was a nice dynamic, and he added a bit more pace up front, sort of in terms of the highest player up the pitch. I think that he added a bit more pace, but yeah, I think it's something to build on.
Good, Josh. Thoughts?
Yeah, I wouldn't say it was like it wasn't great, was it? But I think at this stage, I really wouldn't care. You know what I mean? We won the game. That was the main thing, and I think it was good to have another late goal. That's now 4 home games on the trot where we've scored past the 90th minute. So I think that also builds a bit more energy at home as well. With the games we have left. And I'm like, in the first half, it could have been completely different. I remember when Gillingham had a chance and Chapman pulled off an amazing save. You know what I mean? We'd be nowhere without him this season. I think it was kind of playing out to be a 0-0. Like on paper, I think I know what you said, Asa. He moved Addy up for a 3 at the back, but on paper it was a 4-4-2, and it was simple 4-4-2, and we won the game. You know what I mean? It just shows you what back to basics can do.
There was definitely a few subtle tweaks in there that I noticed. So I think you're right. Look, Chapman. So I was looking earlier at stats on FOTMob prior to this. So Chapman's got 6 clean sheets since he came in January. Harvey Davies kept 1. And I think Jojo's got 1 as well from he's sort of running the team. So he's made a big difference. Now, look, the talk is that Huddersfield rate him very highly, and he's probably too good for League Two in reality, and he's certainly shaping up that way, which is fantastic for us. I noticed some key changes with his distribution. So I think this season he's gone long. He's the one keeper we've had that will mix it up and can go direct, can do the short stuff out from the back as well. But particularly Colchester away, and there was a couple of home games. When he was going long, he was trying to hit it out onto the wings. And that's such a difficult skill because you've got such a small area to land the ball in without it skipping off the pitch, right? And particularly when we're at home, our pitch isn't huge in terms of its width. So going long, having Toby up the top as a kind of foil for another striker worked really well. And I mean, look, literal handful for the defender most of the afternoon. I think the defender wanted his shirt at one stage, and I want to stay away from refereeing decisions. There was definitely a few there that caught the eye a bit, and you could sort of dig into. But like you said, it was drifting towards a 0-0, but they didn't give up. The heads didn't go down, which has happened a lot this season. And we drilled forwards. And look, I've been calling out all season for someone to just shoot from outside the box. It'll take a deflection. It'll do something, right? The keeper spills it, Orsi runs onto it, whatever. Taylor Richards' finish wasn't clean. It wasn't amazing, but it did the job, right? And then Toby's finish was excellent for a player that's not played a hell of a lot of football since he came in. And then, like you said, both of you said it, and, Josh, I saw the video you took. You could see what it meant to the management team, right? And on we go, and you're only as good as the next result. We needed that on Saturday. There was a little bit of nervousness in the East Stand around the fact that the teams below us were winning.
Typical.
I know, right? Yeah. I mean, Harrogate had lost to Notts County in the lunchtime kickoff, so it's starting to look like Harrogate +1 at the moment. Asa did put me on the spot on Saturday. I think we probably pre-Saturday. I think I said 3 wins, Asa.
Yeah, I
Can't
think
remember.
you said 3 wins, and then
I think
was it a
3
draw?
wins does it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I said to my dad that I think we need 9 points when that was like before Saturday. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm like
Yeah.
touching back to Saturday quickly. I always felt, especially with Scott, like he always tried to do the tick-tacker football. He always tried to make it perfect, in my opinion. But he never had the guts to change it, really. You know what I mean? He changed the style. He changed he changed the players, but it was always a back three. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It got a bit like
And
Rob Elliott. It was so monotonous. You knew what was going to happen each week.
I
And I
know,
think,
and you know how Rob Elliott ended up. You know what I mean? When the game kicked off, I was like, Colin said that I'm going to start playing players in the position they want to, and I was like, you're telling me Adiemo wants to play centre half? You know what I mean? So I was a bit shocked at that, but I thought he worked spot on, and it just shows you, Toby, there's a player in there. You know what I mean? Scott didn't even give him a chance. He was the player that would come on to finish the game, wouldn't he? And you start with the L90 and look at you know
yeah,
what I mean? Just shows the difference, and the difference of
absolutely.
Scott Malone in the team as well. He
He
needed
just
about
brings a cool
35.
head, doesn't he?
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
he needed in front of me. He needed about 20 energy gels to get through the game, but he got through the game.
I think it's an old term. I don't know if it still exists in modern day football, but Scott Malone is what you would call an old warhorse back in the day, right?
Hmm.
And you need guys like that are just going to roll their sleeves up and smash players into the hoardings and run up and down all day. And look, obviously Jay left last year. We lacked something in the midfield when he went. I liked Kamari Doyle, I liked Bradley Ibrahim, but they were slightly more attacking players than and even Liam Fraser when he came in was slightly more forward thinking, and I felt like we lacked that. And Jay will just put his foot on the ball and slow the game down and allow people to get in possession and hold on to it. And sometimes we need that. And you're right, Josh. Pep Guardiola changed football with the tiki-taka system, and it's great. And I love the players that we've got, but they're in League Two for a reason, right? And I'm sure part of that is they can't do tiki-taka football to a certain level.
I'm like that tiki-taka football. It worked once, you know what I mean? And the main like point of that was I thought was Liam Kelly. You know what I mean? In that midfield, unbelievable. That's why it worked. And obviously, without Liam Kelly, like I couldn't see it working. Yeah, I think it's actually nice to see because we were always used to the back three. Rob Elliott was the back three. It's like by Nick Cerula and Kellen, we haven't really had many wing backs, have we? So
Not really.
Yeah.
I mean, Jeremy Kelly kind of did that job, but
yeah, but
again,
it was
he
like
was a bit more like Adiemo. He would play on the front foot as
Yeah.
a kind of wing back,
Yeah.
and then
I'm like,
he'd
go
go,
on.
and the other defensive midfielder would drop in to fill in for him.
I'll
So
never
yeah,
forget that, Jared. Sorry, go on.
no, carry on.
All right. You know that do you remember when we played Peterborough last season? It was Scott's first home game or second home game, and he did that ball over to I think it was Armando, and like generally one of the best balls I've seen in ages. It was like straight. It was like near the dugout, and he just clipped it over, and he just shows you what a talent he was. You know what I mean?
Yeah. He's great.
Yeah, and look, we had a lot of, I think over the past 12, 18 months, we've had a lot of square pegs in round holes. Armando didn't want to play wing back. That wasn't his game. Towards the back end of last season, to your point, when Scott came back, Jack Rolls was playing left wing back. He did a good job. We had periods of last season where Will Swan was our left wing back. So yeah, obviously Cerula and Kellen left at the end of the promotion season, and when Cerula came back earlier this year, he still looked like a good player. So I would like to think that's an area they will look at
Yeah.
in the summer. I mean, obviously they looked at it in January. I think Johnny Russell's a proper wing back / fullback. I think it's hard. Sometimes we forget that guy's only 20, right? And I don't even know if he's 20 yet. He's uprooted his life from Ireland to come and play in League Two in a relegation battle.
Can't understand a word he says though.
No, absolutely, but you don't need to.
Nah.
So as long as he can throw the ball like that, and I think he's starting to look a player. I think the flashes we've seen of Ferazaj, I think he looks like he could be quite a player. Great to have Max Anderson back on Saturday. I think that he's been a big miss this season.
Definitely.
But we roll on. I'm not, but I understand you boys are going to roll into South Wales.
We are.
Massive
Yeah.
thanks to the club and the players for subsidising the travel. I think it's an amazing thing to do, and it would appear we're taking quite a following. I shall be
Over 450.
amazing. I shall be watching on Sky Sports Plus as an armchair fan. As it's Easter weekend, but I will be at the Grimsby games. So, how do we feel about this one? I mean, for the past few months, this has looked like a 6-pointer. And Newport, I have frequented Newport. It is the Crawley of South Wales. It's a strange place, but what are we thinking?
Oh, I think obviously go back right to the start of the season. Obviously, we didn't know we were going to be in a relegation battle at that stage, but now when you look back at that result, it's like that was a really bad result. I think it was 2-1 Was it 2-1 Newport? I think it was one of our first home games. I think,
I believe so. I can
and
check.
I think we played fairly well in that game. I think we do our typical not convert our chances, but
Yeah, we had
anyway.
a lot of chances in that game.
But yeah, fast forward to now. Obviously, it's a massive game. Both teams on the same amount of points. Although it's not completely season defining. It's obviously the biggest
We
match
did
out of
lose.
our
We did
last.
lose 2-1. Max Anderson scored in the 97th minute. We were
Hmm.
already 2-0 down, but they scored two in quick succession.
Yeah, I remember I
But
was
yeah,
in Gran Canaria. I was in Gran Canaria looking at that result, and it wasn't a great start to the season.
and I mean, just to show you, I suppose the turnover of players that we've had since then. So our starting lineup in that game was Harvey Davies in goal, a back three of Barker, Conroy, Flint. Adi Adiemo played left wing back that day. We had Kyle Scott in the middle with Jay Williams and Reece Brown, who appears to have disappeared off the face of the earth. Harry McCurdy was right wing back. I remember he started the season as the right wing back. He played in that game. He played against Swansea. Got a bit of stick for that, didn't he? And then we had Gavin Holohan in the 10 behind Kabi Shemanga.
I think.
And we
Who
brought
is
on
there?
Louis Watson and Jack Rolls and Louis
So hold
Flower.
on. So out of that starting 11,
Yep.
players that we've still got now: McCurdy,
Barker,
Barker,
Flint.
and
Yeah. There's four there. Five.
Conroy.
I'm like,
Conroy's still on the bench.
it just shows you, because when the takeover happened in the summer, they said the recruitment was always going to be a bit not perfect, and it definitely showed, especially with players like, you know what I mean. It definitely showed, and that's why January was so much needed. It's like,
Yeah.
we're
Yeah.
like,
I have mixed views on that. So
Yeah, I
this
do.
yeah,
this is this has been bandied about as a kind of stick to kind of beat us with a little bit, right? So there's two parts to that. So there was definitely a recruitment plan that we saw implemented in January that I believe they wanted to implement in the summer, and that led to the divide and Preston moving on because he didn't want to get behind that policy, or put his name to that policy, right? I had a conversation at Lee Delamere Services coming home from the Swansea game with Scott Lindsay for about 20 minutes, right? The players' coach stopped there behind us. We were a few games in. It hadn't gone great. We hadn't started the season well. And Scott said that night that, these were good players. He said, Harry McCurdy was getting a lot of stick playing in the right wing back role. But as he started to score goals, the fans would kind of love him. And I feel like McCurdy is a kind of real Crawley Town sort of character, the shirt untucked, the socks rolled down. Like, he looks like he's just turned up in his pajamas off the street. And I kind of love that, right? There was definitely high hopes for Dion Pereira. I think if you actually dig into the stats, he is one of the most creative players in League Two in terms of chance creation. He's missed large parts of the season with no real explanation. He's been a bit in and out of the team. I know that the other one that Scott felt was a real coup at the time and would play a massive part in our season was Danny Cashman. And having watched him in pre-season, I thought he looked a player. He then just sort of disappeared. There was never any explanation. There was then pictures of him seemingly having knee surgery. He's obviously had quite a serious injury, but nobody's ever sort of said anything about it or how that's come about. I think he's played one league game that I can remember at the Broadfield.
Yeah, it was
and
the
then
MK Dons.
and then he's gone out on loan now to Sutton, which seems incredibly strange when we are crying out for that type of player.
And especially, I remember Scott was saying a couple of weeks ago that we wouldn't see him till next season.
Yeah,
Right.
that was pretty
That was
strange.
also another point I wanted to touch on. It's like all the players you saw: Max Anderson, Copley, McCurdy. Who else? There was a few more. They were all injured last week. They're all available for Saturday. You know what I mean? That could just be a coincidence, but I thought that was a bit strange. Do you know what I mean?
Sure, they would have all still been injured if they had known it was going to snow, blow a hurricane, and then be sunny again for the
Yeah, that
second
might be a
half.
stupid point, but I thought I'd just.
No, it's a strange one, but this element of, and look, right, we're here, we're talking about it, and I think you said it earlier, Josh. Getting the band back together. I would argue right now that that's not worked. I don't think Lolos has been at the levels he was at before. I don't think Darcy's quite there, even at the level he was at Chesterfield earlier in the season. Louis Copley's looked really lively when I've seen him play. I really like him. I
Yeah,
think there's a
definitely.
player in there. But this, I got the mentality, and I got why we did it, and I get bringing Orsi back, and I understand all of the reasons for it, but we're playing a very different brand of football at the moment. Whereas when we had Orsi the first time, we would play the ball in for him to run onto and stuff, and we weren't doing that. Orsi was
I'll say.
Orsi's dropping into a 10 or deeper, and then there's nobody up front.
That's what we need to work with. I think that's why the front two works well, because between them they can say, I'm gonna drop, and you can run off me, vice versa. And I think
Precisely.
that's why the front two really works.
So do we think that I suppose let's put some questions out there around the Newport game on Friday. Do we think we will stick to the 4-4-2 given that it's an away game?
Yes, with some variation.
Okay.
In terms of what I thought was in attack, we sort of moved more to a back three with Adiemo higher up, and I think we'll see some sort of variation of that again. I think so.
Good. So I'm just looking at Newport's current form, because obviously I think one of the things that caused the change in sort of Scott's mentality and kind of the removal of Scott was the fact that the teams around us were starting to pick up points, right? We went, I don't think it was too much of a secret. We were sort of working towards everyone else being worse than us. So they beat Shrewsbury 1-0 on Saturday. Prior to that, they'd lost away at Walsall, and they'd lost at home to Bromley. They won away at Barnet, and then they lost at home to Colchester in their last 5. So they've won 2, lost 3. So they're not in sort of flammable, and they're not, their form's not that much greater than ours, really. So hopefully, we can turn them over and sort of get a result. Do you want to, dare you make a prediction, boys? And I will write it down, ready for the next podcast.
Oh. I'm gonna go for. I think sometimes I can sort of tell which way the game's gonna go by the first 15 minutes. Normally,
I can't give you the first 15 minutes yet, Asa. So you're just gonna have to
no,
go
you
out on
can't
a
give me the
limb
first
here,
15
aren't you?
minutes. So I'm just gonna go. I'm gonna go 2-1, Crawley.
Okay, Josh.
I think it's going to be a low scoring game. I don't think there'll be many goals in it. I think it could be a 1-goal game if there is a winner. And it'll be a lack of quality, I think, because it's going to be like a do or die type of football. I'm going to go 1-0 Crawley. We'll be optimistic.
Yeah, I've got 1-0 Crawley as well. So there we go. We'll keep a score of these as we go along.
Yeah, because I was also going to say, going into this, like, I know, as you said, Asa, it's only been one game, but I watched Collins press it, and he said that they're using the term one more round, you know what I mean, for
Yeah.
everything they're doing. And I just think, and the together thing at the end, he just started with belief, you know what I mean? And like over 450 Crawley fans. If we had Scott, would there be over 450 Crawley fans? I don't know. And like, even though we all loved him and he created belief, this is just new. It's all fresh. But I feel like it's just a game. If we can't win the game, just don't lose it. Because
Yeah.
I feel like even if we do lose it, it's still in our own hands because the two teams under us, I would
Well,
say,
I
are
think, look, if you
worse.
go back years ago, Alex Ferguson used to say that if you win your home games and you draw your away games, you'll be all right. You'll be there or thereabouts, right? We're a
Yeah,
long
yeah.
way from there or thereabouts. And then Monday, excuse me, tough. I'm assuming we're probably not going to get a chance to record before it's quite a quick double header over Easter. So we've got Grimsby on Monday at home. So they've not played since the 21st of March. Obviously, good FA Cup run this season as well. Their last five, they beat Barrow 5-0 at home. They beat Fleetwood 1-0 at home. They lost away 1-0 at Oldham. They drew 1-1 with Bromley and they won 3-1 at home to Salford. So they are currently sitting in 8th in the table. That's going to be a tough game.
It will be.
I'm going to go out on a limb and say I offer me the 0-0 now and I'm taking it.
Yeah, if you remember the first game of the season, Vic Grimsby, it was bloody horrendous, wasn't it?
It was.
I
God,
remember going up
that
there.
they
Yeah, it was
just
not.
that game could have ended 10-0 Grimsby. It really could. I think Newport and Grimsby, if we can take away 4 points, I think that would be the perfect. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Perfect,
I think if we come out of
ideal
Easter with
scenario.
4 points, that will be a really nice place to be. So let me just go back and I can tell you who started that Grimsby game because I feel like we were still in a period where we didn't really know who was going to be in our team, what, where, when, or why at that
Yeah,
stage.
I think back then, like I remember, I'm pretty sure on that game, Holohan started.
Yeah,
I'm
Shamanga.
a
We
Hol-
were so we lost
I've
three
always
0 We had a penalty against us in the first 10 minutes, and if I remember rightly, didn't Harvey Davis
Yeah,
hesitate on
he
coming
hesitated,
out and he cleaned the guy out, didn't he?
and he
In
did
don't you
that.
remember.
He did that again a couple times
Yeah, he
through the
did
season.
early on. He
Do you
did.
remember the kit he was wearing that day?
I
Yeah,
think it
I
was.
do remember the kit. He had gone to
Yeah,
Sports Direct and bought some Adidas kit because we hadn't had our
Yeah, it looked
goalkeeper
like that,
delivered
didn't
yet.
it?
He borrowed Harry McCurdy's pajamas and all was well.
Probably.
So we started with Davis in goal, the back three. It was actually a pretty similar team to the one that we fielded against Newport a bit later on. So we had a back three of Barker, Conroy, Flint. McCurdy was right wing back. Forster was left wing back. No surprise, Carl Scott got booked in that game. He was in midfield with Jay Williams and Reece Brown. And again, we had Holohan in the 10 behind Cabby. We brought on Cote, Louis Watson, Jack Rolls, Papadoulis, and Louis Flower in that game.
yeah. I think just
Um,
touching on those wing backs actually, because I think when we go back to like the promotion winning season, I think we had two wing backs who had both strengths defensively and attacking. I think then the following season, I think a lot of the season we had Adiemo and Forster on the wings, and I think they're both very attack minded players. And whilst Harry Forster can do a decent job defensively, I think that's where a lot of our liabilities have come from defensively, and I think that's why that shape didn't always work. Um, and likewise this season, I think we've had very attacking wing backs. Obviously Gordon came back and stuff, which which has given us a bit more cover there. But I think, I think it was a weird comment. I think it was post Chesterfield where Scott said we don't have the players to do a back four. And I thought that was a very strange comment to make. And I thought we do have the players to play a back four because we've just proved it with Colin.
I also remember him saying that day that I can't do anymore. You know what I mean? Because I remember after Chesterfield he slated the players heavily, and he went like I can't do any more like this. He was that I think because that was 2-0 then 2-2. I went to that game and that wasn't, you know what I mean. Just think how much them 2 points could be now. But yeah.
Yeah, it's been a long season, isn't it? Really, well, it's felt like a long couple of seasons, if I'm honest.
I'm like now. I think new manager. We started with a win. I'm like the past 18 months has been a misery, pressing. You know what I mean for this football club. Like our only recent success has been Wembley, and that's been the past. And like on Saturday, I forgot how our win felt. It felt bloody amazing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you can
Yeah,
only look forward now, positive.
absolutely. So let's
No, no
let's
slating.
have a look at what we've got left this season. So if we're saying pre-Saturday we needed 9 points, okay, we've got 3. We could potentially get 3 on Friday against Newport. If we get anything out the Grimsby game, I'd be thrilled. Away at Bristol Rovers, I think, again, similar to the Grimsby game, just if we get something out of that, great. The two I've got in saying that, the two I've kind of got my eye on would be Bristol Rovers and Shrewsbury to get wins against those two, potentially Accrington. I mean, look, right now, the argument I've been having with some people is I don't care if we finish 21st or we finish sort of, 19th, right? It's irrelevant. We just need to stay up. And I think one of your questions at the weekend, Asa, when you were talking to people was what would it mean to stay in the Football League? And
Yeah.
I genuinely don't know what would happen to the club if we were in the National League.
I'm like, I think I said it to you, Asa, didn't I? I said if
Yeah.
this club goes down, I can't see it. Maybe one day, but I can't see it ever going back up anytime soon. You know what I mean?
Agreed. So Grimsby, I've gone 0-0 on my prediction. So,
I think our home form's obviously way better than our away form. I'm gonna go for a 1-0 win.
okay. Josh?
Oh, it is a tough one, but
Don't worry, I have editorial control. I can make it sound better if it goes really badly wrong.
yeah, 5-0 loss. Yeah, 1-1 draw. I'm going
Okay, cool.
1-0. I'll take a point.
Super. Well, thanks for joining us tonight. Appreciate your time. Hopefully, we'll get better at these as we kind of go along. The only other thing to say is we are running Goal of the Month, Player of the Month votes on our socials. So that's up now. I've seen the early results and it's as I expected. If you have issue with the selections on there, that was all Asa. I mean, we had a limited pool of goals to pick from.
Then we
So
had 6 I think we had five goals because it
we
was
had we
it
had
was
5. One went in off Lolos's backside, so we couldn't pick that one.
no.
You know, so yeah, we had a limited pool, but let's go. I'm with you. So we are in a position where hopefully the day is dawning and we are on the road to recovery. One last question from me that I've been toying with this week around interim managers, right? There's been a lot of interim managers in the Premier League and outside of that this season. If our interim manager keeps us up, should he get the job full time?
You guys.
Oh, I can't, because I've just been focusing on these last, 7 games. I've not thought
Look,
anywhere.
there's been a lot of talk. There's been a lot of talk. Should Michael Carrick keep the Man United job because of the upturn in form? You know, there was talk of De Zerbi coming into Tottenham. If he kept them up, he would get a 5-year deal. It turns out he's just got a 5-year deal because that's the way that goes. But so it just made me wonder around this kind of interim head coach kind of title, and the club aren't going to come out and say, look, Colin's only here to keep us in the Football League, and then he's going to kind of
Yeah.
move on. We've seen it before as Crawley fans, some of us that are old enough anyway. I remember Dean Saunders coming in, keeping us up, and then moving on, despite the fact we sort of wanted to keep him. So there's the other side of the coin, right? If Colin comes in and wins 70% of his games, suddenly his stock's very high and he could potentially move on, same as Harry Kewell did, etc. All those years ago. So I just wondered, if he keeps us up, would you give him the job?
Yes.
Okay, Josh?
I'm like, to be honest, if he keeps us up, I think he'll get the job anyway. To be honest,
Okay.
Yeah.
That's fine.
I'm like, if say we win the next 6 games and we move up to 18th, I think maybe. I think it, like, say we stay up. I just think it depends how we stay up. You know what I mean? If it's all perfect and we win everything, I think I'd take him. But it's just all about then, like, the next step is if we stay up and then progression. You know what I mean? Progression up the table, like it was where we were supposed to go straight back up. You know what I mean? Yeah, but I'd say I would.
Good. That's all there is to it. Well, listen, safe travel to Newport and back. For anyone travelling, look out for Josh with his little fairy microphones. Asa with the microphones, Josh following him around with a phone and a camera. I will see you back at the Broadfield on Monday for Grimsby. And thanks ever so much, boys.
Thank you very
Thanks,
much.
mate.
Cheers. Take care.
Cheers, mate.